pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He therefore engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are all circumstantial and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of the Lord. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all kinds of material reactions, which he considers to be the mercy of the Lord. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattvavit. For he knows also his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme. Om Jnanam Timarandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this is a very wonderful set of verses, and it's sort of a theme in this section of these verses about recognizing and realizing a higher taste. That this material world is a world of fruitive activities. We become very much entangled or absorbed in the workings of this world. And in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, understanding that all of these things are circumstantial and temporary, right? That we're engrossed in some circumstantial, just we happen to be born in a certain country or in a certain place, and temporary. But realizing that our real home, our real position, our real nature is in the spiritual world. And by experiencing that higher spiritual existence, giving up the taste for the lower existence, right? And just this morning we were reading Srila Prabhupada's purport in the it's the pastime of Daksha. It's just slipping my mind which canto it is. Daksha and Sati. And in that, there's a very beautiful pastime that you may have heard. One time there was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he worshipped Lord Shiva very nicely. And you know, the pastime of Daksha and Sati is centered around Lord Shiva, Sati, Daksha, because he was offended by Daksha. And in that one verse, the Bhagavatam says how Lord Shiva is so easily pleased, right? He's so easily satisfied. He's known as Ashutosh. And Lord Shiva is also Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He's the greatest of all devotees. He's the greatest devotee. So the combination of these two things sometimes leads to the fact that Lord Shiva leads his devotees, or actually eventually it's always the goal, he leads them to Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada says it's not uncommon for devotees of Lord Shiva, genuine devotees of Lord Shiva, to one day become devotees of Lord Krishna. Because he's so merciful, because he's the greatest Vaishnava, he wants to bring his devotees eventually to Krishna. So one time, a devotee of Shiva was worshipping him very nicely, and he was worshipping him for material things. Like here, he was saying, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajoguna Samudbhava. That it is Kama or lust for material things. That is the all-devouring sinful enemy in this world. So everyone is lusting after women and money, right? The two things. Particularly money, it's very prevalent. I mean, just imagine everyone in this world is working for money. And then we think, I'll do something original. But we're all chasing after, not all of you. You're actually doing something original, not chasing after what everyone is chasing after. Something that is different than the rest of the world. But everyone is chasing after that. So he was worshiping Shiva very devoutly. Please give me wealth. Finally, Shiva becomes very happy with him. But being a great devotee, the greatest devotee of the Lord, he says, if you want wealth, go to Sanatan Goswami. Because this sadhu who's living in Vrindavan has a touchstone, has the greatest, no, he doesn't say touchstone, he says he has the greatest treasure. So go to him. If you go to him, then he will satisfy your desires. So you may have heard this pastime story. I'd heard it many times, but I forgot or didn't realize that it came from, it was connected with Lord Shiva. So this man, he goes to Sanatan Goswami and he says, I have a family, I have kids. We're very poor. I've been worshiping Lord Shiva for a very long time. Please give me the greatest treasure that you have. So Sanatan Goswami says, no problem. There's a pile of rubble there. You can go and search there and you'll find a touchstone. If you find it, take it home. So he goes through this pile of rubble and digs through it. See, devotees have everything, but they don't want anything. That's the thing. It's not that they don't have anything. They have everything, but they don't want it. So he goes to the rubble of Sanatan Goswami, which you can imagine is, transcendental as well. But he goes through it and he finds this touchstone. And when he gets this touchstone, it turns whatever you touch it to into gold. And he says, wow, I won the lottery. This is more than winning the Powerball. Right? The Powerball is something like $370 million, or sometimes now going to $1 billion. As Kali Yuga increases, the amount of gambling increases. And the amount you can win through gambling is also increasing. And similarly, the amount they're losing is also increasing, right? If someone is winning more and more, now, they keep increasing. It's unbelievable. It's like, it used to be $1 million was a big lottery when I was a child. Now it's like $1 billion. One person gets it. And everyone else, they've lost that $1 billion. There's this, now, used to be only 1 or 2 states in the country allowed gambling. Now it's like everywhere because the state makes so much money. And there's these small shops. They have these machines. And it's not uncommon that people go in, they play for 20 minutes, and they come out losing everything they had. Empty. I mean, this is why it's so sinful, right? It's one of the themes of the Mahabharata is showing the destructive nature of gambling. That even the greatest personality like Maharaj Yudhishthira, he struggled. He could not control himself when sitting in front of a gambling game of dice, right? So it's that's why we say, oh, well, who would do that one? But it's one of the 4 pillars of sin, this gambling. So he searched through this pile and out came this wonderful touchstone that turned anything it touched into solid gold. How much wealth you can get with that. I mean, just imagine anything you touch it to. And it wasn't one of those touchstones that if you touch it to yourself, you turn into gold. No, it actually worked. It was a really nice one. And so he takes it home, thinks that, well, all my worship of Lord Shiva has become successful. But as he goes home, he thinks that this sadhu I met was so nice. Was something so special about him. I see, this is the quality of a saintly soul, that it is their presence, it is who they are that inspires devotional feelings in a person. They're like, yeah, okay, but who is that person? And that's what Prabhupada said, right? Purity is the force. Because Sanatan Goswami at this time didn't give him a Gita class. He didn't preach to him. But just by meeting him, his devotion was aroused. But he didn't know it. He just felt something different in his heart. So he went back to Sanatan Goswami and he says, my dear saintly person, you gave me this wonderful touchstone. Thank you so much. It's amazing. But I have a doubt. You kept this in the rubble, in your pile of trash. And so that means you must be having something even more valuable. What is that? Now, 99.9% of the world, most of the time, if someone receives something like this, you just take it and run. Right? Even if it was in rubble, you wouldn't care about it. You're just like, bird in hand is a bird in hand. You wouldn't risk going back to the owner. who knows, maybe they'll realize what they gave. You would just run off with it. But why he goes back? Why does he even have this doubt? Because of Sanatana Goswami. And that's, sadhu sangha, sarva shastra koi, lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi koi. Right? This is the meaning of it. Just a moment's association. That inspires Shraddha. The first thing in the process of devotional service is faith. Shraddha is born of the association of devotees. We get the taste, we get faith. Faith is aroused in the heart. We get some curiosity simply due to the devotees of the Lord. That is causeless mercy. Right? There's trillions of souls in this world. In one, we were discussing last week, there's in one lawn, in one square, kilometer, there's trillions of living entities. And that's just one patch of grass. How many forests there are? There's oceans, there's rivers. They all have fish. There's how many insects? And trillions and trillions of living entities. There's only 8 billion humans. I mean, how fortunate we are even to be a human being. And how fortunate is someone among them. Maybe there's 1 million devotees in this world right now, like actually practicing, to come in contact with a devotee. So how these living entities, when will they get a chance? And that's why Prabhupada uses the word time immemorial, right? How many millions of lifetimes maybe we'll get the chance when we'll become a human being. And we've gotten this opportunity. The door is opened. All we have to do is walk through it, right? But we still don't realize that good fortune. So that good fortune is meeting the pure devotee. It's the same realization one devotee had, and they asked Srila Prabhupada, like, Prabhupada, there's so many souls, like, what fortune makes us come in contact with you? And I heard this from a Srila Prabhupada disciple, Yogeshwar Prabhu. He said he was in the room. And I was also wondering this sometime. It almost feels like we're too fortunate, right? It's like, it almost feels like, how could this be true? How could we be so fortunate? Just a few moments ago upstairs, His Holiness Danavir Maharaj was saying the same thing. That it's our good fortune we came in contact with Srila Prabhupada. Like, it almost seems unreal that we could be so fortunate. So he was asking Prabhupada this. He said, how is it possible? I mean, can you give some explanation, Srila Prabhupada? Like, why is it we become so fortunate? And Prabhupada said, don't try to bring some material explanation or calculation to Krishna's mercy, his causeless mercy. And I says to the devotee's causeless mercy, right? So Prabhupada is walking this earth, and one person, by chance, was so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada decided, I'm going to uplift this person. And like that, thousands. But still, among the trillions and trillions, only some got that causeless mercy, right? So we cannot have some material logic to this. And so Sanatana Goswami inspired this question within his mind, the very question. Most people in this world never even question what is the meaning of life. They go on their life like machines. But someone even asked the question, why do I die? What is the purpose of life? That takes so much blessings to come to that point. So he says, Sanatana Goswami, you must be having something more valuable. And he said, yes, that's true. I have something more valuable. And I can give it to you. And he said, oh, please give it to me. Please give it to me. I'm so fortunate. And Sanatana Goswami said, yes, I'll give it to you. Just one condition. So what is that condition? This touchstone that you have, you must throw it in the river. You must throw it. And if you do that, then I will give you that which I have, which is more valuable. So now this person, he's looking at the touchstone. He's looking at Sanatana Goswami. He's thinking in his mind, if I throw this away, I might be losing $1 billion. I might be losing that thing that I prayed for years and years to Lord Shiva. that very benediction that I finally got, I'll be throwing it away. And if I don't throw it away, who knows what I'm missing? I mean, he went to Lord Shiva for wealth. He couldn't get more wealth than this. So what more could he be missing, right? But again, it's unthinkable, unimaginable. Because of the influence of Sanatana Goswami, he says, I should throw it. It's very hard for him. He goes to the river, his hands are trembling. But he says, no, and then he throws it in the river. And this is such an amazing, message and teaching for us, right? That Krishna consciousness is so sublime, it is so wonderful. It is so easy. But we must give up, and that's this verse here, right? We must give up our fruitive activities, our attachment to material life to actually get this gift. And this is why Srila Prabhupada's process, right, following the 4 regulated principles and simultaneously chanting 16 rounds. The holy name is everything. We could have just said, chant the holy names of Krishna. Why the 4 regulated principles? Because that's the stone we're throwing into the river. If we throw that, we can get love for Krishna. That's by Krishna's mercy, but it also requires some effort, some struggle on our part. That is the step that Krishna is waiting for us to take from our side also, to see our determination, our desire to know him. So some people recently, devotees, they were saying, well, actually the regulated principles, they're not really part of the process of bhakti. They help, they make a favorable atmosphere, but actually bhakti is has nothing to do with the 4 regulated principles. Bhakti is about devotional service. And these are more just, don'ts, but really bhakti is about chanting and those things. That's not true. Why? Because here we are seeing that yes, it is not directly part of bhakti. However, Prabhupada, we were just listening to a class, he was saying how if, either there can be darkness or light. So many places he says this. So if there's darkness, then light cannot be there. If light is there, then darkness will not be there. So if one is not following the regulated principles, then the fact is that bhakti won't be able to last there, right? So even though it's not directly bhakti, but it cannot last unless we follow the regulated principles. So he throws that stone into the river. And when he does that, then Sanatana Goswami gives him the greatest jewel. And what is that greatest jewel? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Srila Prabhupada actually writes this in the purport. He actually spells out the entire Mahamantra. He says, Sanatana Goswami then initiates him. He actually gives him initiation. He initiates him into the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. And this, he says, is the greatest jewel. There's a very beautiful verse by, I believe it's Rupa Goswami, where he says that the world is chasing after the jewels of this material world, right? The gold, the diamonds, the sapphire. People spend their life searching after these jewels, pursuing these jewels in the form of earning money and getting all this wealth. But Sanatana Rupa Goswami says the real jewel is the holy name of Krishna. That jewel, once we have that jewel, then these material jewels are very, very, just very dull. So once one has achieved that jewel of the holy name of Krishna, there's no jewel in this world that is desirable. And that's why this verse here, text 33. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. Everyone follows his nature. What can repression accomplish? So by telling people that they should give up, material attachments, they should give up their home, they should become, give up their job, they will just become disturbed. But if we give them the higher taste, if we don't repress their nature, but rather give them the higher taste, then they will embrace Krishna consciousness. And that's this verse here that he says, Krishna is saying, yes, text 29, very famous verse, very nice verse. This is a verse actually for preachers of Krishna consciousness and also for ourselves. It says, bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. So this is that attachment part, the jewels part. But the wise should not unsettle them. Although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. So the wise don't unsettle them, but rather what do? Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. He says he engages them in devotional service. So rather than unsettling their minds, rather than telling them, oh, this is bad, this is bad, he engages them in devotional service. And by engaging them in devotional service, they get the higher taste. Once they get a little bit of that taste, then he unsettles them. Then he tells them, actually, you can do less of that. You can do more of this, right? Because what can repression accomplish, right? We may tell people that, you should, act, you should renounce the world. That's what Arjuna wants to do, renounce the world. But if they're still attached, they'll just feel repressed. I had to renounce the world. That's why religion is bad. It's telling me to stop this, stop that. But if they get the jewel of the holy name of Krishna, if they engage in the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, it will be easier for them to give up the four sinful activities. It will be easier for them to follow the regulated principles. And then we need to tell them, you need to throw this stone into the river. We see that Srila Prabhupada did this many, many times. Like the famous story of Brahmananda Maharaj. In the beginning, he had just joined. He was not initiated at that time. And many, many of them, he was one example, they were struggling with drugs, right? Smoking, they couldn't give up. Gave up everything else. We went to Srila Prabhupada, he says, I can't give this up. That's why I'm not able to become a devotee. So Prabhupada said, give me your cigarette. So he pulled out the cigarette out of his pocket. This is in the Lilamrita. And he gives it to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada holds the cigarette in his hand, like this, between the two fingers. And he says, it's a very short thing, very small. And he says, you're willing to let this little thing, these 2 inches, stand between you and Krishna? You're willing to let this little cigarette, little stick, bound up in paper, stand between you and Krishna? And then he takes it and he throws it. Prabhupada is so kind, right? This man who met Sanatana Goswami, he had to throw it himself. His hands are shaking at it. But in this case, he takes the stone and he throws it. He throws it into the river. And Brahmananda Prabhu, it's written in the Leela, after that he said, I never again had any problem. I gave up my whole desire for smoking. It was gone. Prabhupada threw it away. Right? So it's a pure devotee that also breaks that attachment to the material world. Right? These are all the demons that we read in the Krishna book. And a few of them are killed by Lord Balaram. Right? Lust particularly. So it's the mercy of the spiritual master, the mercy of the devotees by which these anarthas can be smashed to pieces. That stone can be thrown into the river. That stone that we need to throw away can be gone for ever and ever, so we can actually love Krishna without any material attachments. And this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says this in his beautiful bhajan. He says, Ekaki amar nahi paya bola, Harinama Sankirtane. Right? So Prabhupada says the jewel is the Harinam Sankirtan. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, Ekaki amar nahi paya bola. I do not have the strength to chant the holy name of Krishna. Nahi paya bola. Harinama Sankirtane. Amito Kangal, Krishna Krishna boli. dhai tava pache pache. I'm useless. All I can do is run after you, saying Krishna, Krishna. Ami to kangal Krishna, Krishna boli, dhai tava pache pache. And then there's one line I'm missing, and where he says, only by your strength can I chant the holy name of Krishna. Only if you give the power, only if you give the strength, can I even chant the holy name of Krishna, right? So we think, okay, process is easy, this is a jewel, I'll just chant. But even chanting is not easy. You can only chant by the mercy of a devotee of Krishna. Right? If you give the strength, only by your strength I can chant. And that's that stone, right? That Srila Prabhupada, he throws it away for the devotee who surrenders unto him. This is the power of Vaishnava Seva, that Vaishnava Seva makes us, gives us the strength to chant, gives us a taste to chant. So that's Prabhupada's entire process. Some people say, oh, wow, Prabhupada, why, this ISKCON, they do all these things. Actually, we should only chant. We should, become, but this is why, this is the whole process. What we're doing, the active service that we're doing, is to please Srila Prabhupada and please the Vaishnavas, which gives us taste for the holy name. So it's all connected to the holy name. It all increases our taste for the holy name. It all leads us to that ultimate goal. So this pastime of Sanatana Goswami and of Srila Prabhupada throwing away the cigarette, they're all they're all taught us to inspire us to take these, to be able to overcome the conditioning since time immemorial to want to enjoy this material world rather than the spiritual world. We have so much spiritual pleasure waiting for us in the spiritual world, but just that taste is missing. So I'll stop here, and I understand that His Holiness Danivir Maharaj, it might be on the Zoom call as well, and can please correct anything wrong that I've said, and please guide us further. And if would like to hear his instructions and words. One second.
Okay.
Thank you for the nice class. I remember the last time I visited you and your family, some many years ago. I was very happy to have your association and all the family, wonderful family. And it's nice to see you again. Now you have your own little family, a wife and 3 children. Congratulations. And you have a clear mind. You know what your duty is. And therefore, we pray to Shishiguratai that you get all the strength and blessings that you need to perform your service. Thank you.
Thank you very kind words. Actually, in my childhood, your association created a very deep impression in my heart. A few times I had the opportunity to have Maharaj's association. He came to Boise and in a few other places. I met him, and his books, his teachings are so profound, and somehow the Maharaj's presence, his instructions, his blessings left such a deep impression. I often think of Maharaj. I never forgot his association, and particularly I remember Boise Rath Yatra he led the kirtan and was dancing in the Rath Yatra so beautifully. I mean, I still remember that kirtan for like 2 hours straight. Maharaj sang the Maha Mantra, the same tune, for 2 hours. And it was just like, wow. It was so amazing. Thank you, Maharaj, for your blessings and guidance. And this community, Rupanuga Vedic College, yeah, I visited this uh, before. So I also here, I had the opportunity of coming before. This is a very special place for our family because this is one of the first places where my parents connected with Krishna consciousness. My father was a student at Kansas State University when he came to America at the age of 17. And then later on, I can't remember exactly dates and things, but they would visit this temple here in Kansas City. So, so we are so grateful, right? We have so gratitude. It's such a powerful project, such a powerful place, and its effects are felt all around the world, especially in terms of the books that you publish from here, that Maharaj has written. Maharaj described now 32 volumes, I think, 37 or 32 volumes. I can't remember. 30 volumes. 30 volumes of books have been translated with purports by His Holiness Dhanagir Maharaj. And um, and also now videos. It's so amazing the videos and movies that are coming out on YouTube based upon these books. Those are amazing. I have small children, 8-year-old and 5-year-old, and they love these films. And they don't watch TV, they don't watch movies, we don't have them, but because this is the world of movies and TVs, they see others, and so they have a desire sometimes. So this is a Krishna conscious way in which they can, see this and get totally absorbed in it, and get inspired. Like, it's so, and they become more attached to Krishna and to this philosophy, the Prabhupada, just by watching these films. So there's the unlimited, you could say, mercy and compassion of Maharaj and all the devotees flowing out of here and helping countless souls. Very exemplary. Maharaj reminds me of my initiating spiritual master, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, very much. They're very similar in their mood and their mission, and so very, yes, grateful. Thank you. Any other comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. I have a question about, so we hear about the four regulative principles and how they're detrimental to our practice of bhakti. But we also hear like the number one thing that will prevent us from advancing in bhakti is Vaishnava aparad. Can you say a little bit about how to prevent this from happening?
Yes. So very nice comment/question. I've heard that Srila Prabhupada said that we keep very high standards for ourselves, and we keep very, you could say, forgiving standards, understanding kind of standards for others, right? Generally, what happens, we do it the opposite way around, right? Like if something happens to us or there's some shortcoming, then we're like, well, we're understanding this was my situation. This is why, I slipped. And we're very hard on others. Oh, see that devotee did this. My gosh, they're having a fall down, So switching it over, being very strict in our own life in following the four regulated principles, our sadhana, everything. But being very compassionate and generous and understanding towards others. Not in the sense that we will follow them if they're not following the principles. We cannot take instruction from them, but we can not criticize them. We can say, well, something may have happened in their life. Like Srila Prabhupada says, don't be surprised if someone falls down. be surprised if they're successful. Prabhupada says this because in the Bhagavatam, you see fall downs are more common than successes. So in spiritual life, we're more likely to fall down. Since time immemorial, we've been in Maya. It's easy to slip, but it's amazing if we succeed. So Srila Prabhupada, the Vaishnavas, they have told us that we should see the positive in others. If we always also see the good, then less likely we'll make aparadh. Say, oh, well, they have a very good positive, aspect to them. And if they make some mistake, then apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak. Right? Krishna says, sadhu eva. They are still a sadhu. We should still see, they're a sadhu. They made a mistake, but they're still a sadhu because they're still trying, they're still endeavoring. Then Rupa Goswami tells us, well, there's different levels of sadhus. Not every sadhu we will take guidance from, we will follow. But still, we can see all devotees are sadhus. Not a sadhu that I'll follow, but still a sadhu. So that's one aspect that I mentioned. There's so many aspects or, facets to your question. But particularly in relation to following the four regulative principles, I would say the connection between those two topics is following them strictly ourselves and encouraging others to do so, being very clear in our speaking, in our teaching. Yet if someone slips, like Srila Prabhupada's example, never embarrassing them or criticizing them, but trying to find ways to help them get back on the path. Appreciating their good qualities still, appreciating their advancement. Yes. Thank you. Any other further thought? Anything else? Okay. Yes, of course.
So there was something interesting that came up, which is like, like if we encourage people not to tell people to quit, like quit your job and like that. How does this affect recruiting for temple life or the brahmachari ashram, for instance?
Yes. Yes, Prabhu. Actually, not in the beginning, right? So, let's say if we're on the street, that's what I meant in terms of what I meant in that. If we're on the street and we tell people, actually, if you want to practice Krishna consciousness, you've got to quit everything that you're doing, then they will be turned off, right? So first, we're attracting them, inspiring some faith. Shraddha Shabda Vishwas ko hai. So this faith, the Vishwas, needs to develop a little bit. So enough that they come to the temple, they enjoy prasadam, they like the devotees, they like the chanting. And then, like Sanatana Goswami does, right? In the beginning, he gives them the touchstone. So, oh, look, you'll get all these benefits. And like we do in our preaching, look, you join the temple, you become a devotee, no more health problems. All these cancers you get from eating meat. If you give up meat, you become a healthy person. Now, that's not the reason why we're vegetarian. We're because we want to eat Krishna prasadam. But it's like giving the touchstone. There's he gets attracted, okay, they've got something good. And then once he's attracted, he's involved, then giving them the real thing. Like so many people I know, they join Mormonism. I grew up in Idaho and Utah, just because they're impressed that they have very good families. Like Mormons are famous now for good families. They were infamous before. They used to have polygamy. So it was that became a huge mess. They had court cases, all these things. But now they've kind of, gotten it together where they have nice families and it's all about, so people are Christians, the different religion, but they're like, wow, they got nice families. I want a nice family. So let's join that religion. Same thing when people come to Krishna consciousness, they see the devotees, they see, the prasadam. And then they're like, I'm attracted to this. So that's what Prabhupada said. Most people will join Krishna consciousness because of the culture of Krishna consciousness. He said very few will join because of the philosophy. Later on, yes, philosophy, but initially it's the culture. Because it's that culture that inspires people. I mean, sometimes you enter like a community, like a devotee festival or something. It's so beautiful. It like, I sometimes will think like, this is otherworldly. It can't be like this, right? There's the way things come together, the music, the clothing, the dancing. There's nothing like this in this world. Like even when I was studying in England, we're at this big university, a lot of, materialism, attraction. But every week we would go to the Bhaktivedanta Manor. And after going there, it was like it would completely satisfy your senses. It's like, this is the best party in town. You have the best food. You have the best music. You have the most beautiful people. And all of a sudden you realize, I don't need anything else, right? And Prabhupada writes this in the Nectar of Devotion. He says, Kali Yuga is getting so bad. The only way we can combat, and you may remember this, the bars, the brothels, the dance shows, actually says naked dance shows. All of these things, he said, is by lavish deity worship and beautiful temples. He actually writes this in the Nectar of Devotion because higher taste, right? When they feel, wow, this is, and I distinctly remember, walking down the streets, sometimes, the bar door opens, and when it opens, as you're walking by, you get the stench that comes out. It's like, and it's dark. And you think like, and you go to the Bhaktivedanta Manor, it's like bright, beautiful. The food is tasty. It's the best food in the world. Like, you're not eating poison. Some of this food that you eat, it's worse than poison. It's so bad. And it's that higher taste. So I, at that time especially, and even now, didn't have the realization to see, I'm not attracted to this material life. I didn't have the realization not to want to enjoy material life. But because I was living with the devotees and the temple was nearby, that's why I was able to maintain my Krishna consciousness, because there was a higher taste. The culture was there of Krishna consciousness. So yes, the idea is we attract them with the culture of Krishna consciousness and the philosophy also. Initially, right in the beginning, Prabhupada said, I tricked you, right? We don't ask them to give up, but rather we give them muffins and we really... Yeah. Yes. Any further comment? I'm sure you're asking this question, but I'm sure all of you have realization on this topic. Or thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any final thoughts, Mataji's? Okay.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, as you were speaking about the touchstone and just how you're saying that it could represent, or it represents the four regulative principles, or the four sinful activities being thrown away.
Yes.
And how you're saying that this will help our bhakti. My mind was thinking, it sounds easy, right? I've made my vows to let that go, but still there are other obstacles. And obviously that's related to other things, including offenses and so forth. But for some reason, something that came to my mind was how Rupa Goswami, he gives these, in the Nectar of Instruction, he speaks about how we need patience and enthusiasm. And I really like how he specifically chose those two things, because as you were speaking, I was thinking, gosh, it's taking a long time. Not that I've even been practicing for that long anyways, but still I'm thinking it's going to continue to take a long time. But with patience and enthusiasm to continue, it would be really helpful. So that's what I was thinking.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for reminding us of this, that actually this process, Prabhupada said we cannot gain the kingdom of God through a whirlwind or tornado. right? Or Jesus said it, and then he was repeating Jesus's statement. Kingdom of God cannot be attained by storm, right? That because we can't demand it, right? Through patient, steady devotion to Krishna, we you could say engender Krishna's mercy. It's completely causeless, but when he sees our intense effort, then he becomes inspired to give us that mercy, right? So that's the utsaha nishya dharya, the determination and the patience, which is so. That's why time in Krishna consciousness is not by itself a sign of advancement. However, if one has been practicing Krishna consciousness for a long time, it is very likely that that person is advanced, because patience, right? Steadiness. If you're able to do it for such a long time, if you stick to it, then the process must work, right? The pebbles, Prabhupada gave the example, were stones with sharp edges in a bag. We stay in the bag long enough, those pebbles will get soft. And it's amazing. It's like that. It's like you think nothing is happening, like you're saying. And then one day you're just like, wow, something happened, right? Like it's working, or it's just, it's pleasurable, it's natural, it's so nice. And actually these problems, these were in my mind, really. There's no big problems. So so that usanisha dharyat. And one more thought to what you're saying, that there's the 4 regulated principles, and then there's also other things that we struggle to give up. But the 4 regulated principles also act on gross levels, but also subtle levels. So most of the other things that I've noticed, at least in my life, are connected with the 4 regulated principles, right? And that's why Prabhupada's, these were the vows, the 5 things. Why? Because really, if we follow those strictly, the rest of the things go away. If we're chanting nicely, following the 4 regulated principles, even our desires to offend decrease. Most offenses to devotees are due to not following the 4 regulated principles, that is material attachments. Yes, you'll observe in the movement, if someone is not following the 4 regulated principles, they're more likely to cause offenses, or, to be involved in offenses, or to get sidetracked, or this and that. So it's very simple, actually, because, the subtle forms are, for example, television, right? Television is breaking all 4 regulated principles. All 4 sins are encouraged and glorified in the TV. So a devotee may not be maybe following the 4 regulated principles, but if they're watching television, they're breaking them, right? On a subtle level. And then when we watch television, then we get so many more attachments. And before it was at least easy, you could throw out the TV and then it's gone, right? But now we have the phone and we have the internet, and those are breaking the regulated principles. And then we have, subtle forms of, gambling, which is basically speculation, wanting to engage in the world of speculation, subtle forms of illicit sex life. We of course know that, meat eating, supporting the meat industry, maybe not eating meat ourselves, but like that, and then illicit sex, right? So many forms of that in subtle ways, and again connected with television, phones, and internet. So if we avoid these things in our life and we practice Krishna consciousness, a person is practically liberated. Right? This is why brahmacharya, particularly taking sannyasa, is so hard. And Prabhupada writes in one purport, if one can do that, one's already 50% liberated just by that practice, because it's so difficult in this day and age. But how to do that? And that's the whole process of Krishna consciousness, because it's not easy. That's, our reading of books, our chanting, all of these things, they give us the strength to follow those principles. And then following those principles gives us the favorable atmosphere to chant more and more. Yes. So, yes, thank you. Very nice word, but yes, determination and patience. Okay, so we'll end here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta ki. His Holiness Dhanavir Maharaj ki jai. Rupanuga Vedic College ki.